Good evening. Welcome to Woodside. I'm Deb Conrad, pastor of Woodside. My pronouns are she and her, and I am blessed to be able to gather with you tonight. Good Friday is the day when Christians historically and globally have observed the execution of Jesus, considered a threat by the state and an instigator of unrest. Tonight, as we remember Jesus, we are also obligated to consider the ongoing state killing of Black and Brown people. I offer you this advisory. This service includes graphic language, which may be startling or unsettling, the words of poets and prophets reflecting on painful, not so long past events. It is painful, but it is important. So thank you for joining in and welcome. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome at Woodside Church.
The newspaper reported it this way. Hundreds of Kodaks clicked all morning at the scene of the lynching. People in automobiles and carriages came from miles around to view the corpse dangling from the end of a rope. Picture card photographers installed a portable printing plant at the bridge and reaped a harvest in selling the postcard, showing a photograph of the lynched Negro. Women and children were there by the score. At a number of country schools, the day's routine was delayed until boy and girl pupils could get back from viewing the lynched man.
The three supreme penalties were the cross, fire, and the beasts. What made them supreme was not just their inhuman cruelty or their public dishonor, but the fact that there might be nothing left to bury at the end. The bodily destruction that was involved is being cast into the fire or thrown to the beasts is obvious enough. But what we often forget about crucifixion is the carrion crow and the scavenger dog, who respectively croak above and growl below the dead or dying body. Remember those dogs. If you seek the heart of darkness, follow the dogs.
Jesus was a man who thought the world could be different, that it was a matter of divine imagination and human faithfulness that we work to make it so. He was killed in a manner reserved for those who pose a threat to the power of the powerful, execution by hanging from a cross. In America's not so distant past, we have tended to deal similarly with those who pose such a threat or no threat at all, save their desire to go about their business or be treated like humans. Execution of Black men and women by hanging from a tree was as common as it was terrifying. We find the practice ongoing as men and women of color continue to be killed by authorities for little or no cause, lynched, crucified on behalf of white people for the only cause that their very being is a threat to white-centered social order. We clearly have a lot with which to come to terms. In this service, we will hear the 7 last words of Jesus and the last words of 7 victims in our own time, as well as the mournful words of the poets and the clarion call of Black theologians and poets. The cross, wrote James Cone, places God in the midst of crucified people, in the midst of people who are hung, shot, burned, and tortured. And so it goes. This is Good Friday, a day to feel the weight of what has been, what continues to be, a day to consider our complicity and our hope. You are invited to hear, to pray, to mourn, to feel. Let us pray. Grieving God, on this night you watched your beloved child Jesus die a ghastly death, rejected by the leaders of his faith and executed by the state for daring to live your way of justice and peace. Worse, we cannot say whether we would have jeered with the accusers, betrayed with Judas, denied with Peter, or kept vigil and mourned with the faithful women. Grant that we who wait and watch may find our courage, strength, and renewal in the life and model of Jesus. Amen. The first word, Abba, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
Two others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, Abba, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by, watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, the chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There also was an inscription over him, This is the King of the Jews.
Just before 11 p.m., March 24th, 2012, a 911 caller in Pasadena, California, reported the theft of a backpack and a laptop, falsely claiming that he had been held up at gunpoint. Kendrick McDade was on Orange Grove Boulevard around the time of the theft. Two Pasadena police officers saw McDade and believed they had a suspect. McDade ran from the police, and they chased him in their car into a darkened alleyway. One officer exited the car on foot. The other claimed he saw McDade reach for a weapon, and he shot him 4 times at close range. The other officer fired 3 more times, thinking that the suspect had opened fire. McDade died 5 minutes past midnight on March 25th, 2012.
Kendrick's last words were to the ambulance driver. Why did he shoot me?
James Cone wrote, "The lynching tree was the most horrifying symbol of white supremacy in Black life. It was a shameful and painful way to die. The fear of lynching was so deep and widespread that most Blacks were too scared even to talk publicly about it. When they heard a person being lynched in their vicinity, they often ran home, pulled down shades, and turned out lights, hoping the terror moment would pass without taking the lives of their relatives and friends."
But I am a worm and not human, wrote the psalmist, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock at me. They shake their head and sneer. Commit your cause to God. Let God deliver. Let God rescue the one in whom there is divine delight. Trouble is near, and there is no one to help, for dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and feet have shriveled. I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots.
I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me. And all along my pilgrim journey, oh, I want Jesus to walk with me. In my trials, oh, walk with me.
The second word, Today you will be with me in paradise.
One of the bandits who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly. For we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
On August 5th, 2014, John Crawford III, a 22-year-old African-American man, picked up an unpackaged pellet air rifle inside a Beaver Creek, Ohio Walmart sporting goods section and continued shopping in the store. Another customer, Ronald Ritchie, called 911 stating that Crawford was pointing the gun at people and at children walking by and messing with the gun. Ritchie has since stated, at no point did he shoulder the rifle and point it at somebody, while maintaining that Crawford was holding the gun and waving it around. 2 Beaver Creek police officers arrived at the Walmart shortly after their dispatcher informed them of a, quote, subject with a gun in the pet supplies area of the store. They shot Crawford, who was later pronounced dead at Dayton's Miami Valley Hospital.
John's last words, "It's not real."
James Andrews. A fatted calf, a priestly fire, the sacrificial knife, a dire foreboding of a bloody thing. It plunges deep, death takes its prize, and smoke ascends toward the skies, burnt offering. A long tree, a surging crowd, and with clubs and stones and voices loud, a black man as a calf they bring. Upon a newer cross he dies, and smoke ascends toward the skies, burnt offering.
Yet here I am, more worm than human, the son of humanity, an object of ridicule. All who see me mock me. They shake their heads and sneer. You trust in God? Ha! Let God save you now.
The third word, woman, here is your son, here is your mother.
Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus was his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home.
On May 25th, 2020, Minneapolis police officers arrested George Floyd, a 46-year-old Black man, after a convenience store employee called 911 and told the police that Mr. Floyd had bought cigarettes with a counterfeit $20 bill. 17 minutes after the first squad car arrived at the scene, Mr. Floyd was unconscious and pinned beneath 3 officers, showing no signs of life. Wrote Lanae O'Neill, herself a Black mother. The video frame of George Floyd on Facebook, handcuffed on his stomach as a Minneapolis police officer presses his knee into Floyd's neck, feels narrowed. Floyd lies immobilized, groaning on the pavement as cars rush by. Police radios beep and bystanders gather, yelling that Floyd's nose is bleeding, that he is subdued, cursing and entreating the officers. "Let him breathe, man," one bystander yelled. "Please, man," Floyd begs as he is ground into the pavement. His pleas mix with the ambient noises around him. They are the disjointed sounds from the clash of belief systems and competing visions of sovereignty, of ownership, of authority over Black bodies compressed into the narrow frame of Floyd's last moments. "Mama," Floyd, 46, calls out. "Mama, I'm through."
Among George's last words, "I can't believe this man, Mom. I love you. I love you. Tell my kids I love them. I'm dead. I can't breathe or nothing, man. This cold-blooded man. Mama, I love you. I can't do nothing."
Audre Lorde wrote, "In a careless season of power, we wept out our terrible promise. Now these are the children we try for temptations that wear our face, and who came back from the latched cities of falsehood, warning, the road to nowhere is slippery with our blood. Warning, you need not drink the river to get home. For we purchased bridges with our mother's bloody gold. We are more than kin who come to share, not blood, but the bloodiness of failure."
A voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children because they are no more.
In my trials, oh, walk with me. In my trials, oh, walk with me. When my heart is almost breaking, oh, I want Jesus to walk with me.
The 4th word, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah."
The afternoon of July 10th, 2015, Sandra Bland was stopped by Officer Brian Encinia on University Drive in Prairie View, Texas, for failure to signal a lane change. After illegally asking Bland to put out her cigarette, which she refused, and ordering her to exit the car, Encinia pointed a taser at Bland and shouted, "I will light you up. Get out now." Bland was arrested and taken to Waller County Jail. Police stated that at 6:30 a.m. on July 13th, Bland refused breakfast. At 9:07 a.m., a jailer discovered her hanging in her cell.
Sandra's last words. How did switching lanes without a turn signal how did switching lanes without a signal turn into all this?
From Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crushed and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?
My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest.
The fifth word, I am thirsty.
After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, I am thirsty.
The morning of April 12th, 2015, 3 Baltimore police officers were patrolling near the Gilmore Homes housing project when they made eye contact with Freddie Gray. Gray, 25 years old and lead poisoned as a child, fled on foot. The officers chased and arrested him for possession of a spring-assisted switchblade knife. Gray was, according to one officer, taken into custody without the use of force. 2 bystanders, however, captured Gray's arrest with video recordings, which show Gray screaming in pain and being dragged to a police van by the officers. The van stopped 6 times before the officers called paramedics to take Gray to the hospital. Gray lapsed into a coma with 3 fractured vertebrae, injuries to his larynx, and his spine 80% severed at his neck. Gray never regained consciousness. He died on April 19th, 2015.
Freddie's last words, I can't breathe.
James Baldwin. I did not want to weep for Martin. Tears seemed so futile. But I may also have been afraid, and I could not have been the only one, that if I began to weep, I would not be able to stop. There was more than enough to weep for. So many of us cut down so soon.
Seized by force and condemned, you were taken away. Who would ever have foreseen your destiny? You were taken from the land of the living through the sin of the people who themselves deserved the punishment.
When I'm in trouble, oh, walk with me. When I'm in trouble, oh, walk with me. When my head is bowed in sorrow, oh, I want Jesus to walk with me.
The sixth word. Abba, into your hands I commend my spirit.
When the sun's light failed, the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, Abba, into your hands I commend my spirit.
The evening of July 6, 2016, Philando Castile was pulled over in Falcon Heights, Minnesota by Officer Geronimo Yanez and his partner Joseph Kausner with the stated reason of a broken brake light. According to video from a police dashboard camera, Castile was calm and compliant in following instructions from Officer Yanez. Castile provided his proof of insurance card and said, "Sir, I have to tell you that I do have a firearm on me." Yanez placed his right hand on his holstered weapon and said, "Okay, don't reach for it then." Castile responded, "I'm not pulling it out." Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, who was riding in the car along with her 4-year-old daughter, also said, "He's not pulling it out." Yanez yelled, "Don't pull it out," and quickly pulled his gun from the holster. Yanez fired 7 shots at Castile, and Reynolds yelled, "You just killed my boyfriend."
Philando's last words, "I wasn't reaching for it."
Malcolm X, you're anti-evil, anti-oppression, anti-lynching. You can't be anti those things unless you're also anti the oppressor and the lyncher. You can't be anti-slavery and pro-slave master. You can't be anti-crime and pro-criminal. If the present generation whites would study their own race in the light of their true history, they would be anti-white themselves.
The earth is utterly broken. The earth is torn asunder. The earth is violently shaken. The earth staggers like a drunkard. It sways like a hut. Its transgressions lie heavy upon it. It falls and it will not rise again.
The seventh word. It is finished.
One of them said, "Give him to drink gall with vinegar." And they mixed it and gave him to drink, to hurry death by poisoning him. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished."
Natasha McKenna had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression. On January 26, 2015, she was taken to the Fairfax County Adult Detention Center on suspicion of assaulting a police officer earlier that month during a mental health episode. After a week, Fairfax County deputies attempted to transfer her to Alexandria City Police. The police noted McKenna's deteriorating mental health after a week in jail. Doctors who had been treating her schizophrenia warned law enforcement that she lacked the ability to process verbal orders or make decisions for herself. In preparation for her transport, McKenna was shackled and hooded. She was also reported to have been naked. She resisted the restraints. During a struggle that lasted more than 45 minutes, Lieutenant Lucas Salzman used a stun gun to tase McKenna 4 times. McKenna suffered cardiac arrest and lost consciousness. She died 5 days later.
Natasha's last words. You promised you wouldn't kill me.
Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote, "There is nothing uniquely evil in these destroyers, or even in this moment. The destroyers are merely men enforcing the whims of our country, correctly interpreting its heritage and legacy. It is hard to face this, but all our phrasing, race relations, racial chasm, racial justice, racial profiling, white privilege, even white supremacy, serves to obscure that racism is a visceral experience, that it dislodges brains, blocks airways, rips muscle, extracts organs, cracks bones, breaks teeth. You must never look away from this. You must always remember that the sociology, the history, the economics, the graphs, the charts, the regressions all land with great violence upon the body."
I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My head is like wax. It is melted within my breast. My mouth is dried up like potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death.
God is my deliverance. By day I cry out to you. In the night I am before you. Let my prayer reach you. Turn your ear to my cry. Troubles fill me to the brim, and my life is on the brink of hell. All my strength is drained from me. I am alone, down among the dead, like a body lying in the grave. I am like someone you no longer remember, someone cut off from your care. You have plunged me into the depths, the weight of your anger pulling me down, drowning me beneath the waves of your fury.
The day of God shall come. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lay down with the kid. The calf and the lion cub will graze together, and a little child will lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together. And the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The baby will play over the den of the cobra, and the toddler will dance over a viper's nest. The children of former slaves and the children of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table. We will one day live in a nation where people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. There will be no hurt or destruction at all on God's holy mountain. And all people will be transformed by the vision of God. Today is not that day.
They were despised and rejected by others, people of color acquainted with infirmity, and as one from whom others hide their faces. They were despised, and we held them of no account. But they were wounded by our transgressions, crushed by our iniquities. By a perversion of justice, they were taken away. Who could have imagined their future cut off from the land of the living?
In you, O God, we seek refuge. Do not let us ever be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver us. Bend your ear to us. Rescue us quickly. Be a rock of refuge for us. You are indeed our rock and our safe place. For your name's sake, lead us and guide us. Free us from the traps that bind us. Our lives are in your hand. Deliver us from the hand of our enemies and persecutors. Deliver us from our own worst inclinations. Let your face shine on us. In your love, hold us. Amen.